Okay, this next part. Okay, I don't know if anybody's been to therapy. Who's been to therapy? Who's been to this? Okay, awesome. I have too. So I was thinking about it. I was thinking about, you know, how a therapist tries to dissect personality, dissect, you know, things about your life and so on. So I thought about what four personalities or what four entities, what four archetypes, you know, types would be a good description of a cinematographer. And I did some thinking about it, and I thought, well, I'm going to go get some notes before I lose you. Hang on a sec, because I don't want to forget anything. So I think in my mind there are four really unique characters which are part of who we are as cinematographers. And I'm going to start. There's four, and the first one to me, I just know that a character that cinematographers share is that of being a lunatic. Okay? A lunatic. And let me explain to you why. There's something about being passionate. There's something about declaring that you're going to do this great movie, that you're going to have passion. There's a fire and an excitement that cinematographers have that conveys visuals to a director, and you convince him with your approach, and it's this kind of crazy guy who has all these ideas, and I like to encourage that. I like to encourage the fact that any idea is possible at the beginning when you're first starting. So you need some kind of crazy guy there throwing out ideas, saying, oh, I could do this, I could do that. I'm going to tell him I can do that. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure it out later. So there's a side to us that's crazy, that's sort of like the lunatic. And that's what I call the lunatic cinematographer. Then there's another side to us, which is an architect. Okay? So this is the person who thinks about schematics. And okay, so what are all the parts that are going to be in my work and in this movie? That he's like the guy who comes in with the plans, the architect. He or she is coming up with, for example, here he's a planner. You know, it's all about structure. It's about managing your time. If you have a movie that's only 25 days, you know, you can't have these great ideas of doing things that are going to take a really long time. So this is all like the architect and kind of thinking backwards as how the hell am I going to do this and what is my plan? So that's the architect part of us. Then there's the mechanic side of us, right? So this is the guy or the person who gets the tools and thinks about what box or camera he's going to use and what lenses you're going to use. And you gather your tools. You think about, oh, am I going to use a drone? Am I going to use a crane? Am I going to have dolly track? And then you gather all of your tools together, and these are the things that you're going to use. This is the mechanics of how you're going to do what the architect thinks that you can do. And then the interesting facet that we have as directors of photography, and the last one is a very interesting one because it deals with all three other facets of the cinematographer, and that is the judge. And the judge, it's like you have a little person on one shoulder, and you have this other little person on the other shoulder, and one is saying, yeah, go do that. And the other one is saying, no, if you do that, remember last time you did that and it was terrible, you don't want to do that. The judge usually fixes things. The judge comes in and he's a storyteller, you know, he has had experience. The judge comes up with the better idea, you know, and the judge corrects. And it's usually, if I would say 50% of the times, the judge is canceling light because we have a tendency to overlight, right? We have a tendency to, you want to make sure it's exposed, you want to make sure it's happening, and then you hit it with light. And then what happens is that might be good for the foreground, but that light goes all over the background, and you don't have a chance to cut it. So all of a sudden, your photography is crappy because, you know, you've overdone it. So having that restriction, having that gauge as to what is good and what is bad is imperative to deal with all the other sides of the personality of a cinematographer. Now, you might ask, what makes a good judge? And what makes a good judge is experience. It's, it's observation. It's the fact that you've learned a lot in your life. You've opened your eyes to sunsets and sunrises and magic hour. You know that there are 7 minutes of beautiful light that you could shoot in any direction and it's going to look great. And when you're in trouble and you can't light anything, if you shoot a magic hour or when, you know, when the light is very low. Why is magic hour such a beautiful light? Does anybody know? The reason is because the difference between the brightest thing in the frame and the darkest thing in the frame is very small. So the camera loves this because it doesn't have to work so hard to deal with the highlights and the low, you know, and the dark areas. So that's why magic hour looks so good. That's why many shoots are saved by having 3 cameras shoot the last scene at magic hour in 7 minutes, and you get it because you can do frontal shots, you can do side shots, and you can do the other shot, and they're all pretty good because you don't have ugly light coming from one side or the other. So it's the judge that has been observing things in nature and realizing when something is good and making a mental note of it. You know, when I look at films like Blade Runner and the beautiful work that Roger did and those effects of the light hitting and making the beautiful patterns of watermarks all over, I mean, that's inspirational, man. That's gorgeous stuff. And I can almost guarantee you that Roger Deakins was in a hotel room one day and there was a pool and the sun hit just perfectly into the pool, and there was somebody swimming, and the water moved, and then it did something like that in the ceiling of his hotel room, and he went, man, that's good. How do I do that? How do I put that in a movie, you know? Or maybe not. Maybe he's just naturally, you know, he's a brilliant cinematographer, so you don't know where it came from. But there are many gifts from the heavens like that are everywhere, that if you observe, if you're open to it, if you're exposed to beautiful artwork, pictures, films, you have 100 years of history of incredible films that are out there, you know, that you can look up. You can look at a movie like Night of the Iguana. You can look at a movie like Lawrence of Arabia. Any type of, you know, resources. All of our great cinematographers, you know, you go back 10 years, 15 years with Caleb Deschanel, you know, movies like The Right Stuff and Being There, one of my favorite movies. The movies of Conrad Hall, you know, as we said, Bobby Fischer and Road to Perdition. I mean, come on. It's just eye candy. It's food for the soul. It's food for the judge. Because when you're on a set, you're going to recognize things that you've seen before that are beautiful, and you're going to want to do your version of it. And the beauty of it is, and the reason why we don't mind talking about what we do is because we inspire each other. And And that's what it's all about, man, because I can't even imitate my own work. If I try to do a shot from another scene that I didn't get, it's never going to be exactly the same. So you can do your own version of something that Chivo shot, or something as an homage. There's no way to copy ourselves. That's why we don't care to talk about what we do, to share it, because we want to encourage pushing the envelope and continuing to recognize really beautiful visuals that, we can come back to and recreate. And it, there are rules to this type of thing where it doesn't happen overnight. Being a cinematographer is learning a new language. And you don't learn a new language right away. You learn, in the first 3 months, you learn enough words. I was 14. It took me 3 months to learn English, to just communicate. It took me another 6 months to actually talk when I was 14 years old. And then it took a year for me to speak without an accent, properly, proper grammar, and so on, because I really wanted to. It's something that I really strive to do. And lighting is the same way. It takes time. You can't just learn, people get impatient. Well, how do I become, a master cinematographer? It doesn't happen quickly, but those are the ingredients. They say that it takes 10,000 hours to become a master at something, in music, playing instruments. So I did some numbers, okay, and 10,000 hours. If you work 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, that's 4 years. So not that you're going to work every day, obviously that's hard, but there's a framework for it. That to become proficient and you have the things that you need around you. You can see it, you can visualize it in films, you can recognize it in real life. And it's all within your grasp, okay? So I give you that as my advice, but I was hoping that in this class and with the help of these beautiful cameras from ARRI, the lovely lenses, you see, it didn't take very long with this equipment to come up with something that, had some heart to it. When you have people that know the gear, knowing the gear, part of the mechanic, right? And you can reach some emotional bits, and hopefully, my hope for you guys is that you get inspiration from this, and not just be stuck on the technical side of it all, because I'm not very technical, and I had a career, and it's about passion. It's about, the effect of that picture when the war was over and the army guy takes the girl and gives her that kiss. That feeling, that's got to live inside of you. And you have to want to make pictures, and you want to tell stories. And it's all around, and it's all doable. So that's what I wish for you guys. I hope that you have the opportunity to reach your goals, and everything is around you. You just have to grab it, okay? Yeah. So, as a last thing here, let me check in with the folks, but let me ask if there's anything that you've wanted to ask, or any questions at all from the crowd here? Anything? No? Everyone knows everything.
Just quick question, going back to therapy. Is there kind of tricks that you do, or when you feel that there's no inspiration, or you're locked in some kind of idea and you can't let it go, something like that? What do you do, kind of thing?
To get inspired? Like I was telling you, how can you not be inspired when you have a library of 100 years of incredible films? That also going to museums, seeing artwork. You're in this beautiful place that has history. we live in Los Angeles. We have no history. We have, everything is new, and the buildings, the oldest thing, if something is 50 years old, it's like, oh my God, it's 50 years old. And so taking advantage of the beautiful things, like the place, like every cinematographer should go to Tuscany if you can, because the color of the light in Tuscany, those golden tones that go with the terracotta and the browns, and the blooming spring flowers, and it's a color that you don't see anywhere else in the world for some reason. And it stays with you. It stays with you to want to recreate it and to want to try to the right gel to play with it. And it's very important to travel, to absorb it. Again, it's all about the observation of these beautiful things, going to places with, with artwork, studying Rembrandt, studying Vermeer. Jesus Christ, there's so many things that you can do to make that judge more knowledgeable, to where you're trying to recreate something on a set, and you're trying to recreate a mood, and you can reference pictures, The movie that Caleb shot, Never Look Away, about the art of Richter, the artist, it was just stunningly beautiful. It was muted colors and not just the artwork, but the faces, the delicacy of all of his pictures, which were references from inspiration that Caleb and the director got from the artist and from other sources, photographs. So it's almost like not to get inspired when of course, if you're not working and you haven't worked in a year and you're depressed, I understand that, because it happens and it's hard to get. But this is why it's so important to never stop learning, never stop being exposed to beauty, and it's all around us. And if you get bored of going places, get movies, and there's access to everything. Can you imagine? Like all of the best work of all of our ancestors and the great cinematographers in our history, 100 years history. Can you imagine what you would learn if you watched every best cinematography Oscar winner for the last 50 years? What knowledge that would be? That's a great assignment, isn't it? To lock yourself, if you're going to be depressed, lock yourself in a room, and take the 50 best movies of all time, or the last 50, that won the Oscar, and infuse all of this exposure to beauty and great visuals. There's really no excuse not to engage and become more of an observant, so that you get inspired and go out there and try to evoke some emotion. This is what we do. Cinematographers evoke an emotion and tell a story, and we have the tools to do it, and it's all within our reach. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. I think we've covered a lot of stuff, and it's been a long day, but I think it's a wonderful place to wrap it up, and I really wish you all a great success. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much again.
Pleasure.
It was a pleasure having you. It was great. I think people learned a lot. I hope that. I would call Arthur, Gunnar, and Charlie again if they are. Come with Charlie. Are you still here? You need not bring the Trinity, but you can. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. Give those guys a big hand. Thank you. Well done. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Bye-bye.